Hello there, and welcome back to Eternal. My name's Will, and today we're breaking down and taking a look back at the Ahsoka episodes from Tales of the Jedi. Obviously, if you haven't seen these episodes or the series, I'd recommend clicking off now so that nothing gets spoiled for you, as there is a big spoiler warning in place. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The first episode is titled Life and Death, and it's basically just an episode just to show where Ahsoka's from. Now, as cool as this is a slight retcon, and we have seen it before. In Season 3, Episode 21, where Ahsoka is kidnapped by the Trandoshans, we see a flashback from Plo Koon when he brings Ahsoka to the temple. As you can see here, the scenery is very different in this, and the people do look slightly different. Same species, but the planet and just the architecture looks very different to what we saw in the village. Now this could, and it is likely because, as we see, Ahsoka's older, so, time has changed. This is about, maybe 2-3 years after what we see the first episode, so it could just be the people are older, the village has modernized, gotten better, expanded, so the architecture's gotten better. So it could just be because of that, but it also is a bit weird seeing how Dave Filoni's kind of going back on himself a little bit. But again, it's nice to see a bit more of an origin story for Ahsoka, but for me, I found this, flashback scene, that was all I needed for Ahsoka's origin. I didn't really need to see more of it. Now, I did like this episode, but, for me, it just didn't feel like it was fully needed. Anyway, with this episode, we do have a few things to talk about. Obviously, Ahsoka goes hunting with her mother. We see Ahsoka's birth, but mainly, the main focus of this episode is Ahsoka going hunting with her mother. I would say it's a little bit of a weird thing to bring your baby along, Would you bring your newborn child hunting? I don't think I would, but, I guess if that's your custom, then I will respect that, and moving on. Now, in that, we see, obviously, Ahsoka's introduced these plants, and that's the life aspect. Then her mother ends up killing these sort of deer-like creatures, and that's the death aspect. And then also, sends a knife straight through on the deer-like creatures, absolutely killing it. So, very weird way to introduce a baby to death. Seems a little bit traumatic. Anyway, Ahsoka's then kidnapped by this, best I can call it, a big cat. I'd love to give it an actual name and name the animal, but I don't know what it is. This big cat. Now, while she's captured, what we see is Ahsoka do something very similar to the likes of Ezra. Now, Ezra on Lothal uses the Force to connect with the Phrynox when, I guess, he's having to face the Grand Inquisitor and some Stormtroopers on Lothal in Season 1. I'm not sure what episode it is, but he does it to help protect Kanan. Because I believe the Grand Inquisitor had Kanan's lightsaber as well. I don't think... Yeah, I can't remember the exact episode, but I do remember the scene very well. And Ezra uses the Force to connect with the Phrynox, and then, he uses them to attack the Stormtroopers, and then uses the Force to connect with this massive Phrynox, and then, use the Force to kind of control that and go at the Empire and the Grand Inquisitor with that. Ahsoka does a very similar thing here. She connects with that beast that kidnapped her, uses the Force to connect with it, and then obviously uses that beast then basically just takes her back to the village. Overall, this episode was good, but as I said, it didn't feel entirely needed. We've seen a little bit of where Ahsoka's from that flashback scene. So I felt like for this wasn't fully needed. It was nice to see, don't get me wrong, and it was quite interesting to see, her village, her people, and kind of how she found out that she was Force sensitive, but again, just didn't feel ultimately fully needed. Anyway, the next episode is episode 5 in the series. The reason for this is there is a big time jump between Ahsoka being young, and then Ahsoka being about 14, 15, as we know it's her age during the first, the Clone Wars film, and I guess it's about set in Season 1, Season 2 territory of the Clone Wars. So the first or second year. I'd guess it was either early second or somewhere in the first year. Now, the reason why they actually structured the series like this is because it goes timeline. You start with Ahsoka being young. That's about 14, 15 years before this is. That's probably, if this is Season 1, if this is about year 1 of the Clone Wars, 22 BBY, this is about maybe 21 BBY. So if we were going back that far, then I guess this is about 37, 36 BBY, depending on where you take it, depending on if she's 14 or 15. Which would then mean that, it's a couple of years before the likes of Phantom Menace, which then gives us time for obviously that Dooku time period of where he then has his little story in, from, I guess, about 36 to 32 BBY. I guess. Phantom Menace was 32 BBY, right? Pretty sure. Maybe 33. So, but it gives it enough time for, obviously, Dooku's downfall and his turn. Anyway, then episode 5 in the series is obviously Ahsoka training at the temple. I love this scene. This whole episode was brilliant. I loved it. My second favourite episode of the series. Episode 4 was my favourite. But this episode I loved. We start with obviously Anakin being late, and we see him pass actually Imogen Dye and Stacey Tin. He's then late to Ahsoka's training. In that training room, we see Plo Koon. Yes, the guy who found obviously Ahsoka and brought her to the temple. We see Terra Sanube, who Ahsoka has a close bond with because she lost her lightsaber because it was stolen from her. Terra Sanube helped her track it down and taught her valuable lessons about patience. Then we have obviously the likes of Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan with his 2002 Attack of the Clones style mullet. There's also Caleb Dume, similar to how obviously they're going to have a bit of a, relationship with how Ahsoka and Kanan are going to be, working together in Rebels. And obviously there's Depa Billaba. I like to see how Kanan's actually watching Ahsoka in this, showing how Ahsoka's kind of teaching him and this lead Padawan, even while she's young, and how Kanan's actually learning from that. We also see in this, she starts off against these kind of normal training droids, and then takes on these newer training droids. These one that, have been made because of the Clone Wars and, the B1 and B2 battle droids, and yes, Droidicas and all the other droids. I can name a few. And I like how we see the Jedi have adapted to train their students now with this new threat. I like seeing that because it shows how they're adapting, how they're trying to teach their students how to defend themselves against these droids. Anyway, we then move on to them outside this training room, how Anakin's like, yeah, well done, but I can give you a better lesson on how to defend yourself properly. They have this slight argument. Quite nice to see this in the Jedi halls with how kind of everyone passing by is just watching them like, oh, there they go at it again. And then they go over to the Republic base on Coruscant. Ahsoka's late, again, parallel to how Anakin was late to her training, and how, Ahsoka's late to, I guess, his sort of training thing, I guess you could call it. But it again shows the parallels between the two characters and how they are very similar. And it also shows the bond between Ahsoka and Anakin, how he is really now caring for her. Obviously, in this first training scene, she gets stunned, but really important to note, she's using one lightsaber at this time, hence why it's season 1 or 2 of the Clone Wars. She's also wearing the same sort of outfit she wore back in season 1 and 2 of the Clone Wars. And we have the Phase 1 clones. Love the Phase 1 clones. Especially I love Rex's armour. I love to see Rex's Phase 1 armour again. Very happy to see that. She also gets tagged by Jesse, which is a really good note to mention, because Jesse is obviously the person that leads the whole, effort against Ahsoka during Order 66. He's kind of commanding it after Rex's inhibitor chip is gone. He's leading it. He's telling them, you need to be here. Let's get Ahsoka. And also in this, when he shoots her, he obviously waves and says, sorry, Commander. This is parallel to obviously Vaughn's final words and also Jesse's words when he's freed by Maul and is sent back to Ahsoka, Rex and Bo-Katan in Season 7, Episode 10, The Phantom Apprentice. Now, then we go to the next scene where obviously Ahsoka is now, on the Venator. She's older. It's probably about Season 4 or 5 time of the Clone Wars because she's using the 2 lightsabers. She's got the, that sort of time period in the Season 4 or 5 kind of clothing design that she was, and also because the clones are now in Phase 2. Now, in this we see very parallels to the likes of her, I guess, version of how she does it back in Order 66. Uses the B-twist, uses various blocks with 2 blades, and Rex also shoots at her. It's the person that ends up stunning her in this one. Apparently she went 5 minutes before. This time Rex ends it basically by shooting at her in the same fashion he does it back when it's Order 66. He does the twin blasters, the twin DC-17s up, and then fires. Again, similar to how Rex obviously shoots. It's also really interesting to see Rex and Ahsoka's relationship in this whole episode. To start with, in the first training scene where, Ahsoka gets stunned, Rex is concerned. We hear Anakin say, don't worry, Rex, I'm sure she'll be fine and wake up soon, And then, Rex is concerned about that. And he says, Jesse really tagged you. And obviously that, we see Rex's kind of relationship there. Now here, he's now taking charge of her training, He's organised it in this Venator main hangar. And now it's him, kind of helping her with her training. And then the final scene in this, we have Ahsoka and Rex standing outside the door before they play that, they try and trick Jesse into kind of letting them escape and letting Ahsoka survive. Then in the scene, there's a parallel to like the Season 7 again. Obviously, there's a massive parallel, it being the Siege of Mandalore era, and when they're trying to escape the moments before, but you also notice that it's a parallel to when Ahsoka and Anakin meet up again. Now, what do I mean? Well, in Season 7, when Ahsoka meets the 332nd, she stands outside the door with Anakin, Ahsoka on the left, Anakin on the right. They stand outside the door, then they face the door, and the door opens, revealing the clones. Here we have the same thing. Rex and Ahsoka on the left, Rex on the right, the 2 of them talking, let's hope all that training paid off. Then they get into their positions, and then door opens. Again, parallel to how the 2, how Rex and Ahsoka, how it's them this time. But before it was Anakin and Ahsoka, again, when it was revealing the clones. And it's a really nice parallel to see with the likes of Season 7. It's So really nice job from Dave and the crew on this episode. The next episode is the final episode of the series, and the final Ahsoka one, and that being episode 6, Resolve. This one for me was a little bit lacking, but it was a good episode. We start with obviously Ahsoka on Naboo, where Mon Mothma and Bail Organa are at the funeral, and Ahsoka's also there as well, paying her respects to Padme. I like this because Padme was really kind of like she was Ahsoka's leading, female figure. She was leading female figure in Ahsoka's life, and did, help teach her. Ahsoka and Padme went to Raxus to confront Mina Bonteri about, one of the CIS things. I can't remember it. I think it was about the peace thing. Yeah. But, Padme also defended Ahsoka. Padme kind of acted as Ahsoka's lawyer when Ahsoka was on trial. The two have a very strong bond, and it's nice to see that she goes to, and respects and, pays her respect for Padme at Padme's funeral. We then also have the retcon with Bail Organa meeting Ahsoka, and it's also weird to see kind of CG clones. I was kind of surprised to see the Coruscant Guard clones. I would have been happier with the likes of normal Phase 2 clones, but oh well, CG clones will do. But I like that because it actually shows how the Empire are now really cracking down, how they have their presence, and how, the clones are kind of different now. They're like going, it's a restricted area, you need to go this way. It's really interesting to see how that... It's also quite nice to see they do have that one little clone thing of how they look at each other after Bail kind of speaks indirectly to Ahsoka whilst talking to the clones, and how they just look at each other like, what was that about? But then also on the Have Naboo, where she goes down kind of next to the waterfall, and Rex is there waiting for her. Again, that parallel of their relationship. And we'll see the Y-Wing they used to escape from the Venator. This probably tells us a few moments after Order 66, which makes sense. It's also really nice to see that blue Y-Wing again. Gotta admit, I love that Y-Wing. Anyway, we then see her at the village, where she then is having to hide her Jedi nature. And I really like this because it shows how, similar to how Obi-Wan's having to hide his own nature. But she realizes she has to use the Force to save that girl. We don't know her name, so I'm going to have to call her the sister. And I'll have a reason on why I think that's quite important in a second. But we have her then saving that sister from the hay bales. And the sister then tries to, become friends with her. She tries to befriend Ahsoka, says, here, Ahsoka, you can kind of sit with me. Like when you're a kid at school, when you're trying to find a lunch table to sit at when maybe you've joined a new school. And some kids are like, here, you can come and sit with us. Kind of like that. I really like that scene because we actually see, normal people talking about the Empire. And I think that's really nice to see. We don't see it enough, so it's nice to see them talk about the Empire. The brother's like, oh, okay, the Empire's kind of fine, from what I remember of that conversation. So it's quite interesting to see, how they're reacting to it, how maybe they need a bit of money, but also how, they think the Empire's, their thoughts on it, basically. So it's really nice to see. Now, the sister knows that Ahsoka is Jedi, and actually, the brother ends up spying on them, and I think this is really interesting. Now, the brother then turns Ahsoka in. Now, I'm guessing he does this for two reasons. One, potentially because we do know that Palpatine destroyed the Jedi image, so maybe he feels like there's some sort of danger. He feels that, it's dangerous having Ahsoka around. And also I think he does it because of the cash reward. We hear him talk about, I should get my reward when the Inquisitor comes along. More on him in a second. But, we hear that kind of, reward thing. So maybe he's doing it for a reward, How now people, don't maybe want the Jedi. Maybe they feel in danger, or because there's a reward, obviously, for letting them in. So there's probably a few different reasons, but I think it's more for the reward reasons. But it does show how he backstabs Ahsoka. Now, the reason why I said that the name of the sister and the brother is important is because there's obviously the older guy who's probably the father. Why this is important is simple. Remember Mortis, how we have the brother, the sister, and the father? Well, here we have the brother, the sister, and the father. The brother is kind of the dark side entity on Mortis, and in this case, the brother here betrays Ahsoka. On Mortis, the sister ends up giving her life for Ahsoka. Here, the sister becomes friends with Ahsoka and helps her. And then the father's just there keeping everything in balance in kind of both things. Again, showing how there's parallels between Mortis and his people, and how Ahsoka and the sister, obviously from Mortis, are very interlocked characters, with obviously the sister giving her life for Ahsoka, and here the sister of this brother becomes very good friends with Ahsoka. The brother, who obviously dark side entity on Mortis, who tried to kill her. This time that brother turns her in, almost trying to kill her, and the father's just there amongst it all, trying to keep everything in balance. Now when the Inquisitor arrives, obviously we have him taking the, I'm doing this by any means possible approach of burning the village, basically holding the father and the brother at hostage point, and so ends up saving the brother even though he backstabbed her. Firstly, I do want to say this Inquisitor looks epic. Well done to Dave and the team, whoever designed it, because it looks absolutely awesome. However, it is potentially a retcon of the sixth brother, but we don't know that. In all fairness, there has been absolutely nothing about who this Inquisitor is. We still don't know. I've checked audio description, I've checked subtitles, I've checked Reddit, I've checked the Star Wars Twitter, I've checked StarWars.com. There is nothing that tells us about this Inquisitor, which is kind of cool but also really annoying. Because we don't know if it's a retcon of the sixth brother, we also don't know who this Inquisitor is, and we don't know what species it is, which to me is quite interesting because obviously, as you know, when it was decapitated, the head deflates. The main theories are it's either a Skukoan because they have to wear pressure suits, like Wat Tambor. Well, Wat Tambor is a Skukoan, I believe. I think that's the species name, I may have got that wrong. But obviously, as a Skukoan, they have to wear pressure suits because of the pressure, so maybe this guy, when he was decapitated, his head deflates because of the pressure, or it's because maybe he's something like Nihilus. You know, the mask is what's controlling him. The mask is kind of, you know, has a spirit or something within it, like with Momin or Nihilus. Not so much Nihilus, but more like Momin, which was a Sith Lord who trapped a spirit in a mask so that whenever someone wore the mask, it would kind of control them. It also could be another entity, which I can't remember its name of, but it's kind of a shadow entity where it has red eyes and can take, you know, the form of something and, you know, can have that under its control. So it could be something like that because this Inquisitor does have those cool red eyes. Trust me, the mask of this Inquisitor looks amazing. Anyway, in the actual fight itself, Ahsoka easily defeats the Inquisitor, likely because this Inquisitor, in my opinion, wasn't very skilled with a lightsaber. He does some massive swings with this blade, and as any lightsaber duels will tell you, the bigger the swings are, the more likely you're going to be hit. The reason why is because big swing opens up your target, so as my fellow lightsaber duelists will probably be telling me as well, don't fight like this Inquisitor. I don't, but to any lightsaber duelists watching, don't fight like that Inquisitor. Because those swings are giant and that opens up his target, and they're also very easy to read. Hence why Ahsoka defeats him so easily, because even though she doesn't have her lightsabers, because she buried them after Season 7 of the Clone Wars, buried them alongside Jessie in the 332nd, you know, she doesn't need them. It's Inquisitor's just doing these really predictable swings, and Ahsoka's very skilled, good at dodging, and so grabs the blade, well, not grabs the blade, grabs the handle. If she grabbed the blade, then she loses her hands. Grabs the handle, and then just takes it from him, and then cuts his head off. Simple. This is parallel to the likes of Star Wars Rebels again, the seventh sister, and how Ahsoka defeats her by just meditating. A seventh sister comes at her, Ahsoka grabs hilt, deactivates lightsabers, chucks it away, force pushes the seventh sister. Anyway guys, that is really, overall, a bit of a breakdown and just a look back on the Ahsoka episodes of Tales of Jedi. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed Tales of Jedi as a whole. What did you think of Tales of Jedi? What did you think of the Ahsoka episodes? Did you enjoy them? Did you think they were needed? And if they did a season 2, who would you like to be the Jedi for it? Would you like it to be maybe Windu? Or, you know, other, maybe Plo Koon, Kit Fisto? I'm personally hoping for Sindralig, but I feel like they're not going to do that. Anyway guys, I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you.